Hello, this is Random Pack, and today we're doing 7th Saga. And we're just gonna keep the base name for the enemy, which is Lejes, is who we're picking. There are 7 characters on this game to choose from. I think the easiest one is Isuna, the elf. But there are series about that, and there's some trick with the Lux where you could pretty much make him invincible. But I don't know. The first time I ever beat this game, and probably the most fun I had playing this game, was using the elf, and I thought it was fairly simplistic, so I like the elf the best. But I always thought the demon was the most interesting. But to tell you the truth, I never beat the game with the demon, so we'll see how far we get. But hoping to do a complete playthrough of this game. One thing I always wondered is why this game was not as popular. I mean, the whole game is basically 7 heroes hunting down the runes and battling each other as they search for them. Now, you can either go completely solo, or you can choose to team up, but you gotta be careful of who you team up with, because the people you team up with can betray you. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in this game. That's why I never understood, why was this game not as popular as some of the other RPGs, and why did... Well, technically it got a sequel. There's that game Mystic Arc that was released only in Japan, and it was kind of a sequel to this game. But why was there no real true sequel to this game? Actually, yeah. Now, one thing that's interesting about the demon... What the fuck? Well, dude. It's okay. It's okay. One of the things that's interesting about the demon is, he can equip warrior weapons, but he still equips caster armor, so I guess technically he's kind of like a Shadow Knight type character. But the world map is also kind of interesting, where the random encounters you actually see on the world map, which is rare in an RPG. But yeah, this is actually a really cool game. And like I said, I don't understand. Well, maybe it had a bigger following than I remember. But, I don't know. I always liked this game. I've only beat it once, and that was a couple of years ago. But I have beaten it, so I can make it all the way to the end. I was just trying with a new character. Every time you die, you lose a shitload of money. The only reason why we're hanging around the first town is since I bought that sword, we gotta buy some armor, because he starts with really crappy armor. Plus, like most RPGs, you're better off gaining a level or two at the start. Yeah, I like the world map where all the enemies are just roaming around, because it makes it easier to tell where they are. The commentary is garbage, but too late. We already started the episode, so we gotta continue it. I'm just gonna shut up for a moment. Yeah, the graphics and everything on this game are really well done. They have the usual Enix style to the graphics. But I always liked the way Enix did their stuff. Of course, as you get the runes, each rune has their own powers. But later in the game, you end up losing the runes. And when you get them back, they have like the exact opposite powers. It's kind of weird, but interesting. See what kind of armor I need to buy. I gotta buy the cotton robe. Which technically should have been the first thing I bought, but I wanted the weapon to make the killing easier. Lejes, to me, is the most interesting character in this game. Even though he doesn't learn any heal magic, he's the only character in this game that gets defense 2, which lowers enemy defense, and a couple other interesting spells. He's also one of the only characters that masters the fire magic, which can be very useful later. Hermits are kind of weird. They're like skeletons with a fucking shell. Or at least that's what I always thought they were. They're like weird skeletal bug things. Yeah, this game has some weird enemies in it. But they are interesting. One of the best enemies to fight near the beginning of the game are the... Well, not exactly near the beginning, but the brains that you come across. Because they can drop... I forgot what they're called. Are they called extracts or elixirs? I can't remember, but they drop... really nice healing items, and they're worth a lot of XP for the time you fight them. It's always irritating when the enemies dodge magic. Yeah, those Laverne dodge rates at the start of this game are bullshit. Fucking 3 times in a row. That was a bullshit fight. I found the potion 1. Yeah, that's going to be my main healing items in this game, are the potions, because I don't have heal magic. That's alright, eventually I'll pick up a partner, and I'll try to pick up a partner to compensate for lack of healing. Now I know the start. I know the start's kind of slow, but just like any new RPG, when you begin, you got to do a little bit of pre-preparation build up, because it makes everything go so much smoother if you do it. Going solo, you gain levels fairly fast, but once you get a partner, you only get half the XP. So yeah, you gotta really wait to get a partner until you're reasonable strengths. Otherwise, you're wasting XP, and you're better off going solo for a while. Get that cotton robe, we'll move on. I just want to make sure I have at least the base equipment, because Lejes does not get a shitload of defense. Pretty much rely on his agility and dodging ability. But the fights are pretty quick. Since the enemies will come to you, it does save a lot of time on the building up parts. Because on the building up parts, you do kind of just have to sit back and wait for the enemies to come to you instead of walking around for who knows how long. I'm not sure who would agree with me, but I still say Snes is the best character in this game. I know everyone else has their own opinions on that. But all the characters have their own strengths, and all of them have their own weaknesses. It's really just who you plan on using, because they're all capable of beating the game. HP catcher is Lejes' only healing ability, and it doesn't work half the time. Every so often you use it just for the fuck of it, because if it does work, it actually does significant. Hopefully we make it a reasonable distance in this first video, because we're going to try to do a full playthrough of it, because I need to start doing some more full playthroughs. I was going to get back to Dragon Warrior 3, but I decided to pick this game today instead, just to see if it gets more views than my Dragon Warrior playthrough. playthrough was. If it does, we'll continue this game first. If not, we'll continue Dragon Warriors 3 first. But yeah, it was more of a curiosity thing to see if this game would be a better playthrough than finishing Dragon Warriors 3 at the moment. But yeah, if I wanted to make it easy on myself, I would have just picked Isuna the elf and played through the game using Isuna, because that's not really that hard of a run. But I wanted to make it a little bit more difficult, so I chose Lejes. Yeah, once we get that cotton row, we'll be moving on, and by the time I get the cotton row, we'll be pretty much ready for the first dungeon. Moving on soon and get more interesting shit going on. We just have to get this first gear. Normally on these videos I cut these parts out, but since this is the first episode, there's no way around cutting out the building up part, so we gotta build up for the first stuff. It's okay here. Building up for the gear in the first town on Dragon Warriors 3, there's no way to get around it. It's one of those things that has to be done. Yeah, sorry for my shitty commentary at the start of the video. I was trying to think of what I wanted to talk about without any spoilers. Hopefully my commentary gets a bit better as the video goes by. Just a little bit more and we'll be able to get the robe and move on. Now, I know RPGs are not the favorite genre for most gamers because it does take a lot of patience and time. It does take a lot of patience and time to sit there and build up for the gear and shit you need, so I know it's not for everybody. But there is a satisfaction to playing RPG and actually making the progress. What is it? Be the last enemy. That might be the last enemy we have to kill. one more. We gotta kill one more. There, now we can move on. There we go. Now we're ready to move on. Well, yeah, this game is notorious for being really, really tough. And the main reason for that is the times you have to battle the other heroes, but also this game loves to take major jumps in difficulty as you progress. Like, especially when you get to the final part of the game, the difficulty really skyrockets. Once you get near the end of this game, the difficulty greatly increases. I mean, it greatly increases throughout the game, but the end of the game is one all of a sudden it's like on a whole new level. That's probably one of the most frustrating parts, is because once you get to the final part of the game, it is kind of bullshit, but if you're prepared, it's not too bad. Anyway, now we're in the next town. Oh, wait. As we learn about old Ramus. Now here is where he finds a very valuable items. You'll want to keep stocks of, like the bee protects. Bee protects are very valuable, and you always want to make sure you're stocked up on those. I don't think there's an armor shop in this town. If I remember right, I don't think there's a weapon shop in this town. Get out of the way, roaming NPC. Well, never mind. I knew there had. I could have swore there was one. See, still need. We're good on weapons. See, we don't need any more gear. We already got the gear we need. Yeah, remember that guy, because we'll have to talk to him again. Okay, now we got a choice. We can head to Ramus's castle immediately, or we can get a little bit stronger. My advice is to get a little bit stronger, just because Rhombus can be a bit difficult. But now we're getting in the part where we get better fights that are worse for. If you head to the cave to the south, you could get fights that are actually worse quite a bit. But right now, the enemies there might still be a tad bit dangerous. I mean, if you were playing with Isuna, it wouldn't be too hard, because he could just cast magic and kill them fairly easily. I mean, you could probably do the same thing with Lejes, but I'd wait till I got a couple more levels before I do that shit. Anyway, we'll get this next level. Then we'll do the Romulus Castle. After all, I'm not trying to do a speed run on it. If I was trying to do a speed run, I would have picked a different hero. But after we gain this next level, we'll move on to the castle. It won't take too long. That's another thing about Lejes I like, is he does tend to get a reasonable crit rate. I'm assuming that has to do with his speed, but I'm not sure how the crit rate works. So hot where I'm at. Okay, one more fight and we'll be able to actually go ahead and start heading back to town. One more fight is all we need. Now we're ready to go to the castle. Yeah, now we're ready for the castle. Now, the worst part about the enemies in the castle are those chimeras that will steal your MP. Yeah, those chimeras that use that MP snatcher is one of the worst things in this castle. I like the graphics in this game where they try to make it a little bit darker. Like, don't worry if you miss any of the treasures, because once you beat the boss, you can roam through this castle and collect everything without being bombarded by enemies. For some reason, I really like the music in this place. first base, Ramos, or Ramos. I can't Now we can explore and get all the treasures in this castle without being bombarded by enemies. Ah, that was a shitty power seed. The power seed should have been at least +2. That sucks. That was everything in this castle. certain that was everything. Yeah, I think that was everything. No, one more thing. Yeah, topaz. Alright, now we got everything. Okay, now we're done with this castle. Now we need to load up on potion 2s. I'm heading now is the Cave of Earth. Now we're going to the Cave of Earth. Supposedly something about the more money you have, the more aggressive the enemies become in this game. I don't really know how true that is, but that's pretty much the reason for buying the gems, is to lessen the amount of cash you have by converting it to gems. But like I said, I don't know if there's a whole lot of truth to that in this game. There probably is some truth to it, otherwise the gems wouldn't have been such a big thing. Notice we're already at a point where the enemy jumps up like one notch on difficulty, and all we did was clear the first dungeon, and now the enemies have already jumped a notch. That's what I'm saying. The difficulty is all over the place in this game. Ah, you running bastard. Now, normally this is a good point. Now, normally it is a good part to do some building up, especially if you think you're too weak for the upcoming boss. Which normally when you first get here, you are too weak for this boss, but decent agility seed at least. You get a lot of experience in here. Well, we're gonna turn back and head back towards town because we're not prepared for this boss up ahead. I'll just go ahead and collecting a few of the treasures, but we need to get a few levels before we fight the boss up ahead. Even with a B protect, he's incredibly strong. Yeah, you see how strong those undead hit? That's weak. That's a weak attack compared to the boss. The boss hits ridiculously hard. So that's why we need to be a little bit stronger. Because Lejes has caster defense, which is not helpful for enemies like that hit incredibly hard. Yeah, say about level 9 is what you should be when you fight Paizen for the first time. Yeah, when you fight Paizen for the first time, I would suggest being level 9 at least. That way, being level 9 with a B protect, you should be able to survive his hits long enough to finish him off. Fired too due to this guy. Yeah. Waste of magic using fire 2 on that guy. 2 fire 1s kill him and it saves magic. Start saving my magic herbs because we need to start collecting items from this point on. We need to start stockpiling our items. From this point on, we need to start building up our items because we'll be needing them, because once we get beyond this cave, the enemies get stronger yet. I know it's hot. I gotta restock potion ones, because that's my main healing item, since I don't have heal spells. And need to start stockpiling magic herbs. I don't know if our guy's hot. Gotta talk to the people in the town. Yeah, that's where he tells you about Pison, which you'll be encountering very soon. I just want to make sure I'm like level 9 at least, because he is dangerous. Now, depending on which hero you're using, depending on the hero you choose to use, you don't have to build up as high a level. Like I said, I'm only building up to level 9 because Lejes has such low defense. If it wasn't for that, I'd go ahead and try to defeat Pison, but since he has such low defense, I'd rather wait till I'm level 9, so at least I'm a reasonable level. It's more of a precaution than anything else. So we're almost done with the building up. is probably the easiest fight in this dungeon. And I learned Defense 2, which is his signature spell that he can use to lower enemies' defense. But anyway, we're going back to town one last time, then we're going to fight Python and move on. Just gotta make one more trip back to town to heal, and then we'll move on. Let's heal up, and then we can move on. Okay, now we're ready. Let's get out of the beginning area and head to the new area. There. Now let's get through this dungeon and get to the real game. Now, I'm not grabbing that treasure chest, because that treasure chest is a mimic. Tyson. Or he comes back even stronger, but not until you get the first room. Yeah, that was old Tyson. Now we're heading to find a new area. And this is also where we're starting to get to where we can pick a partner. In this area, once we get to, I think, the second town, we can start picking a partner. And depending on how strong you are, depends on which partner will join you, but also depends on which character you're playing as. As you can see, the enemies are starting to already get stronger. Those cyborgs are some of the base enemies in this area, and you can tell they're a lot stronger. But this is also the town where you get the world map. this is the town where you get the world map, which is also nice. No, it's the next town where you get the world map. So yeah, there's the dwarf, and now you're at the point, like I said, where you can pick a partner and actually battle some of the other guys for increased XP and shit. But I'm not sure if we can do that quite yet. It don't matter, there's a lot of gear we have to build up for in this town. We gotta get the Kryn dagger and the scarf and all that. So yeah, there's a lot to build up for in this town and a lot to search. So we're gonna end this episode here because I want to spare y'all any more foolish building up. The beginning building up, there was no way not to spare that, but I'll build up for the gear in this town and get back to you after we're ready to move on again. So if you like my videos, please follow, subscribe. Probably gonna do a full playthrough of this game. And I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully y'all like it, and have a good night.